Okay.
How many true ragas does it call?
In practice, I think 60 odd ragas.
Overall?
Yeah. Another thing, if you have 3,000 ragas, does that make your music more richer? Is also a question that needs to be. Not even only 60 ragas that you sang. I mean, there is there Carnatic. So what? There is only 60. There are only what? How many colors are there? That's all. Why don't you have another 50? You could ask the question, right?
But can you billions?
No, but it's still not a color. It's still not a color. I'm talking about colors.
I have one question. No, because you said 73 mela.
72 melas. Now you're asking how many we have, is it? Oh, sorry. Now how many? I don't know. I really don't know. Probably the number is hundreds. 100. Because they are, after all, permutations and combinations. You can come up with another 10. Not very difficult. Yeah, with this you can come up with another 20, 30 if you want. But are they ragas? They are not. Are they scales? Yes, they are. Can you sing for some time with them? Yes, I can. Will they sound good? Probably good. But the other ragas? No. It's all cyclical. It goes through the same thing.
Old ones, can you give some more names?
Old ragas, okay. I would say Gantha, Dhanyashi, Ananda Bhairavi is relatively old, relatively. Riti Gowda, Kedara Gowda, Kamboji, blanking on now. Mukhari, I said. Bhairavi relatively. Bhairavi relatively. You could say Bhairavi to some extent. Narayana Gowda. Narayana Gowda.
You said Begada, but Shankara.
Begada has a parallel in the Hindustani game called Behagadi. Behagadi, and I found this, though Behagadi is very different, there is something that is a crossover over there, in conceptual. There is conceptually a crossover. It's like Kalyani is relatively, Shankarabaram relatively.
How do you date them actually?
There are references in treatises through the centuries. There are treatises being written right for every century. You have 3-4 treatises. You have catalog. All this Mela categorization, they gave you all the ragas, no? So you can actually go through that. And then you have, for the last 200 years, 300 years, you have compositions. So you know which composer has used what raga. You may not know. There are some ragas that have died. Raga called Samanta was extremely popular during Annamacharya's time, which is 1400s. Today Samanta does not exist. It has just completely died.
Narayana also is almost gone.
Narayana, but at least it exists. There is Narayana is still there, visible at least. But Samanta is just a gone. It's a total goner.
Right.
But all questions of survival of the fittest, I think practice ultimately. If people stop singing certain ragas, they die. Now Hindustani music, they have a big challenge there because half the concerts are happening in the evening, and they are all bound by time. In Hindustani music, they only sing the raga according to the time. So what happens to all those ragas should be sung at 3 a.m. It's a serious problem. In probably another 30-40 years, they're going to die because there's going to be nobody singing them. Because all your concerts are between 5 and 9. You're going to sing Puriya Dharashki every day for evening, early evening concerts. But so these are all. In fact, this is an issue that was talked about by many musicians even a long time ago. Whether we need to be stuck by that. So why they were lost? Probably musicians did not compose in them. Practice did not happen. There were so many things that could have happened that I don't know how to answer.
Why should the raga be sung at 3 a.m.?
Because certain ragas, in Hindustani music, ragas have association with times of the day. Even in Carnatic music treatises, they will tell you Sayankale, this raga should be sung in the evening, this raga should be sung in the morning, this raga can be sung all through the day. So there is a perception of environment with a raga. Perception of, as much as perception, raga ragini is a perception of emotion. Okay? Here there is a perception also of the environment, of the sun, of the mood that they have associated. People associate it. So certain ragas, but in Carnatic music, we hardly ever followed it. Luckily for us.
Even though there exists.
Yeah, of course. If you go to a traditional temple where the Nadaswaram Vidwan is playing, there are certain ragas he play in the morning and certain he play in the afternoon, certain he play in the evening. He won't play every raga at every time. There are rules in there. But as a practice, as an art music presentation, as a concept, we never got stuck into that. But Hindustani music, they still follow. They still very, very, very diligently follow. So, but that's a problem now. There was times when there were concerts all through the day. So people had concerts at 4 a.m. and 3 a.m. But now people only listen to concerts in the evening. So what happens to all the other ragas? So these are all very serious existential questions for me.
I think that the classical music definition, music for the intent of music is kind of lost. That's one of the reasons why that we have. Okay, so.
Okay, that's okay.
No, I just have a basic, really basic question about how does one really cultivate this whole idea of able to identify a raga. Now you told us what the raga is.
Yeah.
So if I want to really study,
See, I think
how
the-
can I recognize a
I think that's a huge challenge actually. The best
Is there a process?
I'd say the simplest, see, there's no real process. The simplest way is through songs. That's the simplest way to go to recognize, especially in Carnatic music when you have so many
Yeah.
compositions to help you. See, in Hindustani music, the challenge is greater because their bandishes are one line and
Yeah.
nobody remembers the bandish.
That's right.
Okay. Everybody knows only the raga, nobody knows the bandish. So, I think what we could do is, if you say, take Kalyani or raga like Kalyani, you listen to, say, 3-4 compositions. Then at some point of time it will trigger. It could be just one line of melody that went past, you see, that sounds like this song.
Okay.
This association is the best way to try and
So
cultivate.
listening-
Yes, that's the only way. There is the worst way you can recognize the raga is through Aron. That is the worst way you can try and recognize the raga.
Yeah. So,
Never recognize the raga with Aron. You just cannot. The best way is to practice listening with compositions that you've heard. Or even elaborations by musicians, even alapana or elaborations by musicians. The more you listen, you slowly start making association. Some people even do it with film music. That's your personal choice.
yeah.
But I would say the best way is to do compositions that you make.
I have one more question. In the lack of rhythms in Carnatic music, long harmonies, there is visibility, right? Is it intrinsic or is it only?
First of all, yeah, that is going to come in my third weekend. As part of alapana. But anyway, I'll address it very crisply. First of all, whether it is disappearing or not is a question, because whether it was there at all can be questioned. Okay. As a spectrum, yeah, you need to question. Now, is it very necessary is the second question. Okay. You like it is not a question.
I like
That's not the question. That's not the question. Now, whether that is necessary for a melodic expression is a question. Just an objective question. I think it is many cases being personal choices that musicians have made, whether they want to sing slowly in a long fashion, and there's no way to actually pinpoint it as a positive or a negative. To me, whatever is being sung, fast, slow, vilambit, whatever, as long as the essence of the raga is being expressed, it is fine. If by singing something at super fast speed, you are destroying the aesthetic essence, medium tempo or whatever curves required automatically to be able to express that. So I view this whole skill, the tool of singing, which is vilambit or whatever, which is a part of the tool that I have, as being only secondary to the primary focus of my expression, which is aesthetic abstraction of the raga. So whether it is there or not is irrelevant as long as I am able to embrace that aesthetic essence of the raga. GNB was probably able to do it with his fastest speed. You didn't think at the point that there was...
No, I was going to say, on the other hand, it's also true that there is Dixit Kalyani by MDR, and there is also Kaya Kalyani by MGNB.
No, like I said, I'm not, there's no way to, I'm not passing judgment on either. That's my point. It really doesn't matter whether, see, I worry about a school, I don't care about tools, skill sets disappear or tools disappear. I worry about Kalyani disappear. That's my point. My point is I'm more concerned about whether Kalyani as an idea is disappearing rather than saying is this approach to Kalyani disappearing. I'm not so worried about it. If there is a different approach that is still presenting it in a beautiful fashion, fine. But if I'm more worried about the fact that I want to sing Vilambit, for example, and at the cost of singing Vilambit, I'm willing to sacrifice the whole essence of a raga, then is Vilambit more important or raga more important? Yeah?
So you used a very powerful phrase, raga is died.
Yeah.
Now we are sitting on a site where there was probably a yeri which is dead and the building has come up. So why does a raga die? Is it because the emotional charge of the raga has become irrelevant to our times or another charge has taken its place?
Very nice question. I think some cases, some other ragas take over the charge. Probably that's what happened with the Kannada and all that. They probably took the charge that was existent in few ragas, and because of the way they were able to express the charge, they probably submerged what was existent. That's what I think in many cases that could have happened. And but in the cases of Samanta, I'm really not able to say because that was way before. That is like 1400s. And if you look at in Annamacharya's case, you can see many of his lyrics given in Tirupati temple with raga names attributed to him. So he's actually attributed raga. And you see Samanta being such a famous, I mean, a musician who have composed so many songs in Samanta unless it was a very known phenomenon at that point. It disappeared. Why it disappeared? Did it not have enough melodic, emotional and psychological charge to retain itself? Did it disappear? Did something else take over that? Now that question is open. I mean, I really don't have an answer. But in the case of Kannada, I really think that that's what's happened. That both technically, intellectually, emotionally, and acoustically, Kannada took over the rest. And because it took over, the rest were not needed in a way. The rest were not needed, so they kind of went back. I think that's what's happening.
I would like to, so all of this, I always connected Carnatic music with some amount of spirituality, divinity, mysticism and all that.
Next Saturday.
You're coming to that.
Next Saturday. That comes with composition. That comes with composition. Yeah, because that's a very, that's why I said today I want to deal only with raga because that's the basic front. Next week we will refer with composition where this whole spirituality, divinity.
No, but what about the timing aspect? So do you think there's a mystical component to even the ragas? I mean,
What do you mean by timing?
For example, if certain ragas are played at certain times of the day, then maybe there is a certain reason to that, which is sort of...
I am not a rationalist, but I'm a skeptic. Okay? So I would like to, I like to question most things as you figure. I'm not, the whole mystical element I cannot comment about because it's mystical. Right? Anything mystical cannot be actually discussed because it's your experience of a mystical sense against my experience of a non-mystical sense. But to me the relationship of time has also got to do with the emotional charge of the melody. Now why, for example, Bhupalam in the morning? Everybody bowling Bhupalam. Any cinema, anywhere, and there will be those notes. Now, did the time influence the charge of the note, or did the charge of the note influence the time? Now, this is a chicken and egg story. Perfect chicken and egg story. We don't know. Somehow, now you see sunrise automatically. Now, why did that become? Now, this is actually a question I've asked myself. I actually asked my question. I said, why is it if I sing this, I feel I'm in the morning? And I do. I feel, like I'm waking up. You almost feel like on a brew ad, the coffee being in the morning. You know what I mean? Even a brew ad will give you that. The coffee will give you this kind of melody. Why? Is it because there were compositions composed that was about the morning? No. Not really. So, is it something about the charge of the sound itself that has a morning chirp to it? Maybe. Is there also a sociological conditioning? Yes. So, how are each of them playing with each other? I don't know. I really don't know how much of it is conditioned, how much of it is actually a mystic charge that the melody itself has. It probably does. How much of it is your own perception of the morning? Does the brain associate certain tones to certain times of the day, for example? So do certain tones give you a sound of excitement, whereas certain tones give you a sign of laziness, of just waking up? Now, how did that association happen? Because they are neurological associations, right? Some of them are neurological. So, I really don't know. I mean, I've looked for papers. Nobody has yet dealt with this. And if you find a paper, please share it with me. I would love to read it. Because I think they're multi-layered. There's probably a psychological side to it, a social side to it, and also probably a tonal side to it. That the sound of those swaras has something to do with our way of associating with the time. Could be, but it's open for discussion and debate.
But there's a lot of research done on health and drugs.
There is not much good research done. First, let's clarify that. If you're talking about research as what research should mean, then it is not being done. Mumbo jumbo, yes, a lot. There is no. Some people will tell you Neelambari will cure diabetes, that will cure this. Now, the moment you say research, I'm looking for empirical data. Sorry. Because you're talking about health. You're not talking about artistic experience. You're talking about health. So you're saying if I play this raga, this person is cured. Then you have to prove to me that this person heard only this raga and he was cured. I don't like empirical data, but in this case I want empirical data. Nobody can give you empirical data.
But
Does music affect your brain? Yes. Can it make you heal faster? Yes. Is it an addition to your experience of recovery or happiness or whatever? Yes. But does it mean it cures you?
also it's got controls.
There is something being used about plant growth versus music.
Yeah, I think that's old research, no? That's an old research. I read that, but even that has not been very not established. Sorry, that is not. I read some of those pieces, but they're not because I know a few people who have been dabbling with this, and I've always been curious. How can they say if you listen to this raga, your heart will be better? All musicians in that case are the most healthiest lot in the world. Technically, let's look at it logically.
They are doing.
No, let's do it logically.
How about Pujari going to being the richest person because he's.
I mean, all musicians should be so healthy because we sing all these ragas, no? But are we healthy? Come on. We have the worst lifestyle on the face of the earth.
Only people listening.
So we don't get the benefits, is it? Okay. No, but jokes apart, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. If somebody can come and show me something, I'll be happy. But I think it's, it is like meditation helps you. I mean, it's similar to that, or peace, or staying with nature. Of course, these are part of changing your mind, changing your experience, but they're not cures. I mean, cancer doesn't go away because you sit under a neem tree, right? It's not going to happen. So it's like that. I mean, I sat under a neem tree, cancer go away. No, it's not going to go away. But so I don't know whether you can really make these literal correlations. I don't know. I mean, somebody can prove me wrong, and we have to prove it wrong.
What is the idea of this Anyaswara and how did it happen?
The Anyaswara is, as we understand it today, just to explain. If I choose a certain set of swaras here and there is one swara which is not true among this chosen set, which suddenly appears. It's called Anyaswara.
Is the change happened?
Now, Anyaswara must have always been there in the organic raga. Because
That's
nobody cared about scale, right?
Yeah.
It was a melody. And nobody treated that swara as an Anyaswara first. They didn't treat it as an alien being. Anya is something from outside. Right? Anya is coming from outside. So in the organic raga, there was no outside inside. The raga was the raga. So whatever sound or swaras that were there in the raga were part of the raga. The moment you box it into one mela and say, which means if you box it into if you box for example Begada into Shakarabha, which means it can have only E2. If you start singing E1, you have to justify it, no? So what do you do? Call it Anyaswara. So you say, okay, E1 is an Anyaswara for Begada.
So
But E1 and E2 have always existed for Begada.
Now, does it mean the Anyaswara comes only to those 18 ragas which
No, they
is not there?
actually true.
It should have been.
It's actually 90% true. Most Anyaswaras appear in ragas that are more organic. In synthetically created ragas, you don't find Anyaswaras. You don't need to, because you're constructing it, you're careful when you construct it.
Anyway, in Veda, I was saying that Swarasthana is some or
I never used the word Swarasthana at all. I said Swara. I kept saying Swara.
that's why I'm asking.
I never used the word Swarasthana. Swarasthana to me has no musical context.
No, once you put in Sankarabharana, get this Swarasthana.
So when you say Swarasthana, you put it in Vela. Vela is a categorization of Swarasthana. It has got nothing to do with the raga. It is just categorization. That's all. But when you talk about Begada or Shankarabharana, we talk about swaras, which means a melodic bond, a melodic identity. You're not talking about a position. So when you Anyaswaras, 90% will appear in older ragas that you have force fitted into them. Because in order to give them logic, one that does not fit into that mela has to be given some term. So you call it Anyaswara. Okay. So none of the newer ragas that you create, you will find a necessity for Anyaswara. Right? I mean, if you did, then you will evolve differently. You never find Jagananda, take any of them. They are very carefully constructed, so that they can very easily be boxed into one of the categories and understood.
What's the technical aspect of this Manodharma?
All that's next weekend. Third Saturday. Third Saturday. Yeah, I try to split this. Next Saturday we'll try and do composition, lyrics, and the whole question of divinity, religious role of Sahitya, which is a huge subject. Not as simple as saying what it means, but it has a the purpose of Sahitya in music is quite dynamic. So that will come in. The third Saturday we will try and do all the Manodharma. The whole idea of improvisation, creativity, where does creativity lie? What are the tools that we use? And all this will be analyzed by all of us in a critical fashion. That's the aim. That there is a critical perception to it, because we have to question what even I am doing. As a musician, I have to question what I am doing and what I am cultured to believe that I should do. Okay, I think it's pretty much done.
So what about Tala?
Tala, when it comes to composition, that's what I thought. I thought I'll bring Tala today, but as you saw, there was enough and more material for a day. Tala will come with composition because it makes sense to talk about Tala, Laya, composition together. So on next Saturday will be Tala, Laya is an idea, Tala is an idea, construction of Tala, then composition, interaction of composition with Tala, what is a composition, types of compositions, whether each type of composition, what is their aesthetic identity, because they are distinct from everyone. So all this we will try and look at next time.
What is this Shankarabharam called as English ragas?
No, it's not English. It is not like this English vegetable and Indian vegetable.
Some places I've heard this.
They're very simple. Another mistake we make is the major scale is not Shankarabharam. If you understood my differentiation between Swara and Swarasthana, never in your life will you say that major scale is Shankarabharam, which all musicians say, which cannot be more wrong from the truth. Major scale has the Swarasthanas of Shankarabharam, but the major scale is not Shankarabharam. So, for example, there is something called the Nottiswarams by Dikshita, which are basically Scottish melodies for which Scottish, Irish, and English folk tunes for which he gave lyrics. There are so many concerts. When I have sung the concert, I'll sing this one. Finally, one person will come and say, "Sir, you sang that last song with Shankarabharam." No, so I'll say, "No, it's not Shankarabharam." What raga? I say, "There's no raga. It's just a melody. It's a western. It's a folk melody." Now the ragas, the notes that it had could be the same as the Swarasthana of Shankarabharam, but it's not Shankarabharam. These seem like, what's a big deal? But it's a very big deal. Aesthetically, it's such a big deal. Between calling Bach's symphony in C major to be Shankarabharam and listening to Tyagaraja's creation Shankarabharam, it's not anywhere associated, right? Yeah.
In the morning, you were trying to give an example of Swara by singing Ra, but you did not contain the letter Ga.
Yeah.
So why did you choose to sing it with the letter Ga?
Very good question. Excellent question. Because it is Ga.
That's why I'm trying to understand what makes it Ga.
Because in the manifestation of Ga, in the context of the melody, in the given raga, it is Ga.
That's a
Does it make sense to you, first of all?
Why do you not replace all this with a single syllable and sing everything with a particular syllable? Instead of saying
Because in that raga's context and the sound that raga needs to generate, in the acoustic sound, in the technical features, in also the cognitive recognition, it has a certain body, and we have to respect that body. Now, if I sang it as Rima Rima, for example, I will give an example, which is what it is actually. Rima Rima Re Sa Re is not darbar. Ga Ga Re Sa Re is darbar. Rima Rima Re Sa Re could be any other raga.
Why do you sing it as Ma?
Because, okay, I'll explain this way. This is a very simplistic explanation. In a raga, within the context of a raga, every dynamic unit of a swara has a character. Right? That is, the character is defined by what? When I said a raga is when I said a swara is a melodic atom, it also has a character. Right? That character is defined depending on the context, which means the raga it is in. So the primary driving force of what the character of every swara is that overarching identity called the raga. Got it? So as long as the movement of the swara reiterates the overall identity of the raga, it's permissible. The moment the movement or its manifestation alters the overall identity of the raga, it means it cannot move. Which means in darbar I can't sing it as ma. Ma, pa, it's only a different raga. Understand? Ga, ri, There are so many cases. I'll show you one other very interesting case. Now that you ask this question, I'll sing one thing and show you. I'll sing a certain note. So I'll give you I'll ask him because he's heard music. Huh? Madhumati? Who else said? What did you say? Okay. You know I sang the same thing? Ga 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 re 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 re. It's exactly the same thing I'm singing. Ta da ra na na becomes Madhumati. Ta da ra 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 becomes Todi. It is exactly the same thing without one iota of a difference. But the moment I place it in a context, it becomes a rag, it becomes associated with that. I knew you would say Madhumati when I sang that. Because when I sang Todi, if I was going to start Todi like this, is how I will start it. Usually. So the movement, you can see, can go either way. The same identity was ga in one place and re in one place. Ga ga, re re. Another example. What sort is it? What ragam is it? People don't know. Try. Panisa. Swaram no? Did you say Padasa no? I said the same thing. I sang the same thing. Panisa, he said first, right? Then he says Padasa. It's exactly the same thing. But because after that I sang na, his mind immediately said this is Kamboji, so that's da. When I stopped, his first association is must be Madhumati. Panisa. I can show you another 100 examples like this.
But this identity is being given to.
That's why I said cognition. That's why I said cognition. Everything comes back to those 4 parameters. Everything will come back and fall to those parameters. So in Darbar, ga, re, sa, re has to become. Though it's possible in different contexts you could interpret something close to that, probably not exactly as ma. Ma, pa. Probably works at some context somewhere else. I don't know. I can't think of anything right now, but probably does. But in this context, it is not. So every melodic atom of the swara is always, the intent of the melodic atom is always to reiterate a larger identity. It has to constantly, that is why phraseology is part. So how does it reiterate it? Being part of a certain phrase. Now once it's part of a certain phrase, it is identifying itself with a larger idea, which is the raga, which you cognitively start recognizing. That's all. Pretty much done.
But in instrument, this isn't.
Of course. In fact, instrumentals know this better than vocals because their fingers actually show them where they are. So when they say pa dasa and pa nisa, they are playing the same thing. They tell you what is this? You are saying ni and da. I am actually playing the same damn thing here. Ask a violinist. He will say da da and da da. I say I played in the same place. I play exactly the same thing. But even to him, it sounds like Madhumati and Todi. That's brilliance. That's cognition. That is acoustic. That is the cognition. The moment, that means even to a person who knows that he is physically playing the same thing for 2 ragas, it sounds like one of those 2 ragas.
So how does a novice really start engaging? I mean,
The novice forgets about all this first. Novice, I really forgets about all this. Novice starts, I think the best way to engage is when you start listening. You probably make these mistakes in associations. But then what will happen is, your view will start expanding in phase, like in forms. So when you have a view which is only this, you will get stuck with this guy. Then you start looking at the bigger parameter in that phrase. Then you start recognizing a larger identity that all the phrases together are kind to constantly refer to. Then you're completely in it. Till then there's going to be a distance between you and the raga. But the best starting point is Kirtanas. Another reason is all ragas have certain phrases that are constant. There have to be some. All ragas, especially the older ragas, you have to sing certain phrases to prove to you that it's that. So the moment you listen to compositions, the compositions are pretty much give you all those main phrases constantly. then you start associating with the main phrases. Once you start recognizing those main phrases, everything that's built around by the creativity, you can see. Then you start seeing the body of sound of a raga.
No,
Then you would start saying this phrase does not sound like it's part of it.
but also true. Suppose you say, now I'm going to sing Pradimani. You say Vanisa. When I hear it is Vanisa.
Of course, that's what it
Then
is.
you say I'm singing comedy and then you sing.
You will, yeah. Then you know why? Because by the time I sing, by the time I've sung, you've already sung. I'll give you an example. It happens in my class all the time. It's not exactly related, but it's similar. I'll sing a phrase. I'll sing this phrase. Under here. The student will keep making a mistake. 10 times, 11 times, and I used to get tired. Then I realized one thing. That by the time I've started singing, the student is actually singing in his head. What I've sung na. Now this is a famous phrase that everybody knows. Who knows Andhra knows this phrase. By the time I finished it, they are singing. So who are they actually listening to? Me or them? They're listening to themselves. So you keep singing the same phrase. So I had to stop and say, okay, now try and just switch yourself off and listen to me. Within 10 seconds they'll sing it. This is similar to me saying it's Kamboji. Your mind immediately associates all the images of Kamboji that you know. And you sound like Kamboji. I say Madhimavati, it will sound like Madhimavati. I say Todi, it will sound like Todi. So actually, the part of the job that a musician does when he starts an alapna is to brainwash you. Yeah, it's absolutely true.
Instead of actually saying I'm playing Todi,
Exactly, my job is to first brainwash all of you here to a state where you all see Todi. I have to. I have to bring in that cognition that I know you all have and establish. That is why everybody says in the first two phrases the raga should be there. What do I mean? Basically serve you all those phrases that you can identify immediately to all be brainwashed that guys I'm singing Todi now. I don't say it but I do it. Exactly what he said I do. Then I can do what I want. It will still sound like Todi. I've done my job. Yeah, so it's almost like a magician's job, okay? There is a certain amount of psychological play that's happening here. Of course it is. Of course there is. So that is why every musician will tell you, any teacher will tell you, when you start an alapana, please make sure you sing known phrases and establish the raga. Why? Why should I not sing an unusual phrase when I start? Because all of you have been, this first 5 minutes you want to know where you are. So my musicality will never get across to you. So before I get to my musicality, I first settle you all down and give you something familiar that will make you feel comfortable.
Compositions to capture the true phases.
Yeah. Compositions, that's why I said the compositions play a very important role and they capture all the essences. And that's why going through compositions ragas is the best.
You say ragas have changed. I mean, is it because of the usage repeated with musicians like you who?
We'll talk about that next week, but composers, musicians, all of them have contributed to changes in ragas. Practice, regional influences, it's cultural, regional influences. For example, in Tanjavur itself, the period when the Nayaks ruled, different kind of travelers from different parts came in. The Marathas came in, the Maharashtrian influence had come in, so different sounds came in. So all these play a role in the way ragas have changed. But you can actually trace them. That's the beautiful part. If you go back, you can actually see a beautiful trace. I mean, this raises another very important question which I was going to deal next. The whole idea of tradition comes into question here, and I think that's something we'll come with composition next week. What's this tradition we talk about? If everything is changing, is there any tradition at all? Or is it also a psychological idea? So I think that's also an important concept. Thank you all.
Is there a concept of Jiva Swara?
Jiva Swara is basically a swara in a raga that is usually most used and also most important. That's again something you have fixed. Yeah. In older ragas also you can, then you can decipher any raga. Depending on how the usage of the raga, you will notice certain phrases, certain swaras are accentuated. The most accentuated, most intoned, most repeated swara usually is the Jiva Swara. Yeah, I think it exists, yeah. Definitely exists, no doubt. Thank you very much.
Thank you.